and just notice. If it's coffee, you're going to notice the weight of the mug in your hand. And you're going to notice the warmth. And you'll see the little oil on top and the steam coming off it. And then what it feels like to lift your arms as you bring it, and you can feel the warmth on your lips as you bring the mug to your lips. And then you'll feel what it feels like in your mouth and explore the flavor of it before you swallow. And then do it again until the cup's gone, until you drank the coffee. 10 minutes. You're going to drink the coffee anyway. But that 10 minutes of electing where to put your brain, where to focus your attention, creating agency over your attention.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Ponto. Each week, I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Hendon. He has spent 30 years building businesses while quietly drowning in anxiety, calling it fuel, and grinding his way through it. After realizing that your nervous system can actually be trained, not just managed, everything changed. His book, How to Live in a Grateful Life in an Effed Up World, and his live Train Your Brain cohorts teach high-achieving professionals how to train their brains so they can keep their edge without being driven by anxiety. He lives on a small island off the coast of Seattle with his wife of 28 years and occasionally some other grown kids. Congrats on your book and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Karl, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love your work.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on because it's you hear a lot of stories and articles about people being overwhelmed and stressed and burning out these days. And so especially for people that are trying to scale a company and be successful and have other employees whose livelihoods are riding on their shoulders, it's got to be more important than ever for people to really understand how to train their brains and stay mindful about how they're feeling and be able to manage their mental and emotional health. So what are the ways you're seeing that people who are doing this well are applying this sort of mindset shifts, and what skills can people build to better control their mental health?
That's a really good and deep question. So I'll just see if I can take it apart and you tell me if I miss any of the parts that you wanted to talk about. So I think the highest performing people all have some kind of mindfulness practice. That's Tim Ferriss from Tools of Titans, who interviewed 200 of the world's top performers in all different fields, and 80% of them had the most common habit among all of them was a mindfulness practice, because it is the one thing that takes care of the thing that takes care of everything else. Your brain, your mindset, your brain determines your mindset. What you see determines what you see. It determines how you react to what you see. So training your brain to slow down and operate, from what Daniel Kahneman would say, move from system 1 thinking to system 2 thinking, is a critical performance enhancer. Not just because, so there's 2 elements to it, or probably more, but 2 that we can talk about. One is just the rest factor. Every athlete on the planet, high performing athlete, knows rest matters. In any professional athletic context, even not professional, even anyone going to the gym knows that it's in the recovery that the muscles grow. That's where things happen. It's in the recovery, in the rest. And if we don't attend to ourselves with that matters, and I know as a high performer, high D, driven, hustle culture kind of guy for most of my life, always looking for a way to make my downtime more productive kind of nonsense going on. Like, no, your downtime needs to be fucking downtime. It needs to be downtime. It needs to be restful, not productive. In fact, resting is productive. And that shift needs to happen for people, for them to get what mindfulness really makes available, is the opportunity of slowing down and resting the brain is a critical performance limiter or enhancer, depending on which side of that equation you fall on.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you're saying that the downtime is productive because it's when your body does all the productive things behind the scenes that allow you to perform when you're not on downtime. And it's that misconception that if you're resting, you're not being productive, or it's not contributing to your productivity, is causing a lot of people to actually undercut their performance and their ability to be productive because they're not resting. And it is such a kind of foreign concept for some people that are used to that grind hustle culture of always got to be moving and working and not and going as fast as you can. But it's in a reason I think it's so kind of counterintuitive is that our brains are not used to working this fast or moving at this pace. Like we haven't evolved to be in this situation. And so in order to perform better, you need to work in a way that your brain is conditioned to work in and not be trying to force it out of its abilities like people have for as long as they're trying to. You're going to go out of the way a little bit and then push it, but you got to make sure you're, like I said, resting and recovering in order to not burn out. And obviously given the state of what's going on these days in the business world and the mental health situations that are going on, people are obviously not managing it well. So for someone who's recognizing, okay, I need to build more mindfulness practices, what does that mean? How do people build those? Because I imagine there's no one size fits all and there's no simple, it's about building new habits. So what are some of the ways people can start building these habits up for themselves?
Yeah, it's good. Really good question. So anytime you can pause just to notice is a mindfulness moment. So simple mindfulness practice, which is this kind of a practice will produce the same result that sitting in meditational practice, because it really is basically the same thing. But you can take on any normal daily activity that you do and do it mindfully. So for example, you drink coffee?
No.
Okay. Do you drink anything in the morning?
Yeah.
Tea,
I'll have some beverage, yeah.
Fine. Something. Even just eating your breakfast, or doesn't matter, right? Most people drink coffee. Us coffee drinkers now are questioning the validity of this whole podcast, Karl, because you don't drink coffee. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well.
You've just thrown your credibility out the window amongst all the coffee drinkers. But nonetheless, we'll let it pass. But you're sitting there with your morning cup of coffee or your ham sandwich for lunch, or your Diet Coke, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Take what you're eating. Turn off the phone, turn off music. You could be in a crowded park, doesn't matter where you are, and just notice. If it's coffee, you're going to notice the weight of the mug in your hand. And you're going to notice the warmth. And you'll see the little oil on top and the steam coming off it. And then what it feels like to lift your arms as you bring it, and you can feel the warmth on your lips as you bring the mug to your lips. And then you'll feel what it feels like in your mouth and explore the flavor of it before you swallow. And then do it again until the cup's gone, until you drank the coffee. 10 minutes. You're going to drink the coffee anyway. But that 10 minutes of electing where to put your brain, where to focus your attention, creating agency over your attention in just doing, you could be in the shower. You shower, yes?
Yeah, I do this in the shower. Yeah, there's this practice of just noticing what am I feeling? What am I hearing? Yeah. That sort of
that's it.
On just the now, because so often we're either ruminating about something that already happened, or we're being anxious about something that could happen or might happen in the future, or we've scheduled to have happen, and you're never are very rarely actually experiencing or focused on what you're actually doing in the moment.
Mhm.
And it is such a calming experience, because eventually I've noticed sometimes where afterwards, if I haven't taken a shower and I'm not doing that, that mindfulness practice, I feel way more just calm and at peace than if I was rushing through a shower just to get done in the morning.
Mhm.
And I do a similar thing when I'm going to bed. I like club soda a lot, so a little can of bubbly water, and I'll drink it slowly and have feel the bubbles in my mouth and how cold it is and the flavor and all these things. And it is a great way to just decompress. And it's when you make that a habit, I've found it makes my decision making better, because once you're going to learn how to get that feeling or going to get that focus on the moment and not be
Mhm.
have your mind going off in 1,000 directions, when it comes to decision making and just being able to take actions that are more thoughtful and responsive rather than reactive, I find that has been one of the benefits I've found from these sort of habits. As I'm imagining the people you work with find that similar, where it just makes their when they're making big decisions for their businesses, they're not coming from this fight or flight mode. It's now just about a measured, controlled response, which it comes from that skill set of being able to be in the moment and actually be present and not be kind of freaking out or in that fight or flight mode.
Yes. And it's important, I think, for people who don't meditate or don't practice or don't have that, aren't engaged in this, to recognize the neuroscience behind it. So it's not simply people find this, maybe this will work for you if you do it. It's if you eat less calories than you burn, you'll lose weight, right? That's not up for debate. No one's like, I don't know about that. That's the math of it. If you consistently eat less calories than you burn, you'll burn off body weight. Meditation, mindfulness, whichever, I know we're combining two words that do not mean the same thing, but intentionally being mindful and meditating are both do the same thing neurologically. And that is, you grow new neuronal pathways in your prefrontal cortex, and you shrink or quiet the neuronal pathways in your amygdala. So exactly what you said is right. You come out of fight, flight, or fright, or you don't go in as easily, either way. And you remain rational, logical, contemplative, reasonable. You become more present. That's not optional. That's like eat less than you burn, you'll lose weight. Practice mindfulness, you'll become more rational. It's physically changing your body. It's not it can be a spiritual practice. It can be a psychological practice. It could be a lot of different things, but it's also a physiological phenomenon. It's literally changing your physiology so that you become a different thinker, a different seer, you get to take different actions. And the more you practice, the more pronounced these are. And 10 minutes a day of practice will get you there. 10 minutes a day will do enough work on, and that could be 10 solid minutes of sitting in meditation or 10 single minutes of interrupting your day and just taking a breath. 4 mindful breaths is about a minute. Do that 10 times during your day, and you will achieve the same results. You will be increasing your presence, decreasing your reactivity, increasing your response, decreasing reaction. That's how that works. And I think people miss that. They have it like, oh, I don't know if flossing really cleans my teeth. No one does that. They don't floss, but they know that it works. This is like that. People sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and know that it's, what you know and what you do are different things, but it's important to at least know that this works that way physically, not like woo-woo about it. And
I think there's also that misconception that they have to do it for, I have to find like a half an hour, an hour to do this big, long process to meditate. And it's going to be so hard to calendar that in. But one of the things that I've done is that, like, if you finding a couple minutes between tasks, or if you're going from one location to another, if you come back to your office or your desk, whatever, and you sit down, instead of rushing right into the next thing that you said, just take a few deep breaths and just be present for a few minutes in your new location and just notice what's around you for just a couple minutes. But that little pause helps you clear the cache of all the things you're thinking about on the way there, or the last meeting you're in, and allows you to be more focused on what the next thing you're trying to do is. And it just helps your brain, like you said, build those pathways so you're more prepared for the next thing or what you're doing right away in this next moment, and not still percolating on the previous event. So just little micro breaks in between activities of deep breathing or just being focused on what's around you have a huge impact, like you said, because it's like the physical change to your brain, and over time that will change the way you are able to think and respond. And it's for people that are making high impact, stressful decisions, having the kind of mental muscles to handle those in a way that's rational, logical, calm, collected, and not from this fight or flight mode, are going to be better leaders. And it's again, like I want to reiterate, it's not just this is a nice thought. Like, this is the brain science behind it.
Yes, this is not. And look, I think that Tim Ferriss statistic is particularly useful. I mean, people could zig while others zag. I appreciate that in the world of business, no problem. But if 80% of the world's billionaires and high elite athletes and elite performers in all different fields, if 80% of them are doing this, I don't know that I would zag while they're zigging. I would get on the train there. That works for them,
I'd argue they're the ones zagging when everyone else is zigging and overdoing it, and hustle culture and grind culture and burning out. And like, that's the main most common thing people are doing. So the high performer ones are the ones that have already zagged, because they're the ones that are going slower and being mindful, which is the kind of minority group of people there. And when you look at all the professionals or athletes in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I just want to say one thing about this thing about grinding for a minute, because I think it's important. I think there's a level of intentionality. I don't know that it has to be a grind, but there's definitely a level of intentionality and effort that needs to be put in when you're launching something. That I don't want to dismiss the amount of work that anyone has done to get their business or their life into the position it's in, or their sacrifices to get their life in a position it's in. That, I remember when I started my bakery in the 90s, I was cried every day, tired and crying. I remember sitting in a shower crying because I was so exhausted from, startup. And startups require that much attention and intention. And you know what? I could have afforded 10 minutes. Instagram wasn't around in the 90s, but I could have done with 2 less bong hits. It was, even the 10 minutes would have been available. And it takes something to bring something into existence. So the grind, one way to put it so that people don't get invalidated about the work they've done is the grind will get you so far. You can grind it out and produce extraordinary results. It's just not a particularly sustainable or enjoyable or fulfilling methodology ever, and certainly not once the business hits the ceiling that grinding will give you. That there's a flow state available if you want to tap into it. Now, you could tap into it in the beginning and have all that grinding occur as flow, which would be great. But if you haven't, and where you are now is you did all that grinding, this isn't to invalidate that. This is to say, good, you've gotten the business to the ceiling, or the life you have into the ceiling of that grind will take you. Now is the time to learn to develop something beyond that capacity. And that's what mindfulness and meditation provide.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Aaron. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please leave a comment, and subscribe. If you want to connect with myself or Aaron, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.